Hello everyone, this is General Hand Grenade. Welcome to my war room in Prince George, British Columbia. In this video we're going to be exploring another 1936 to 1945 Global War expansion set. This one is called Manchukuo-Puppets of the Empire. Now I'm not entirely certain that's how you pronounce this, but that's what I'm going to go with. Manchukuo. So that's probably what it is. I had to start this video about 4 times because I was tongue-tied trying to say it, because it does look like a weird word when you're from Canada anyway. Anyway, let's just take a look at what you get. And this is actually a pretty big set that you get here. So I've set it up, and what you see in behind here is what is Manchukuo. But you see here, look, you get the Manchukuo roundels, you get 5 of those. You get 6 infantry. There's the cavalry and the motorized infantry, and armored car, which is a new unit that they're introducing in this set. And you can get armored cars, and you have been able to for a while, but they haven't really added them to the game yet. And so they're adding it to this set, and so we'll be using those as well. But also you're going to get a couple of minor factory tokens. This cavalry here, this white cavalry, that's for Mongolia. There's a couple of river monitor markers, the manufacturers. Also, look, they got the nice roundels here for the CCP, so you don't have to go out and buy yourself a set of CCP monitors, or markers. Like these are probably going to be enough for you to play this game. Maybe not, but probably. And then there's a couple of militia markers, because there's militia in this set, and Manchukuo Imperial Guard marker. So it's quite a big set. Anyway, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pause the video, and then I'm going to set these units up on the board for you. Okay, so I got the units set up on the board, and you see what the difference in there. I'll get more specific as far as what the differences in the setup are a little bit later here. But let's just dig into these rules now. So let me just get my rules out here. Okay, so you saw the first page, nice and colorful. The second page, it just gives you the historical background. That's a lot of writing, so rather than having you sit here and listen to me read it all out, just go and check it out yourself. You don't need to listen to me read it out to you. You know I know how to read. So, and then it just keeps going. That's what I mean, like I don't need to read all that out for you. So then it tells you everything, and you've seen everything that was in there. So that's the stuff that it comes with. So let's get into it here. It starts right here. So Manchukuo is a Japanese aligned nation beginning in any scenario that starts in January 1932 or later. So that's like they haven't finished making all the global war games, the whole series of stuff, but for the purposes of this video and for this game, it's either the 1936 or 1939 scenario. They haven't finished inventing the other games yet that start before 36. So the territory consists of eastern, western, and northern Manchuria and Jehol. So let's just take a look at those here. Basically what they are is this color of territory here. So you see all of it here, except for Korea. Korea over here is still Japanese, and I set the Japanese dude down on there. But the rest of them, or the rest of these territories in here, that's all Manchukuo. Manchukuo! Sorry, I keep throwing in an extra syllable there. So the production, so Manchukuo's IPPs and production are completely controlled by Japan. It doesn't say aligned, it says control, so they're a puppet state. So that, I guess that means that their money would be separate from Japan's, but Japan would control that. They would purchase for them and stuff. I think that's what it means anyway, because it does say control. The railway within there, so the railway capacity within here is 2. Normally the railway capacity is only 1 in Asia, but in Manchukuo the railway capacity is going to be 2. And the military, the Manchukuo military forces are provided in pumpkin orange color, which functions as Japanese forces. So you're going to move and fight with all the same all at the same time. They're going to be interchangeable with the Japanese. They're just giving you more, like more different types of units and everything, and the setup's different basically. The next thing is Soviet-Japanese border clashes. Now they have border clashes in the normal game. It says the USSR and Manchukuo may take northern Manchuria and Chita from one another during border clashes without being at war. So that's different than the normal game. Normally in the 1936 to 1939 game, you would shoot each other across the border, but you wouldn't take over the territory. But what they're saying here is between these two territories here, you can actually take over the other territory without declaring war on the Soviets, or vice versa. They can take out northern Manchuria without being at war with the Japanese. And also the Mongolian border clashes here, and you'll notice the setup change here. That they add they have the militia and the cavalry together, and I assume that there's still the cavalry over in this space here. In the regular setup, there's only a militia here, but in the changes in the setup, they added the cavalry here as well. So that's what I assume is happening. Like, it doesn't change; it just you just add that. So the Mongolians border clashes. The Japanese may also fight border clashes with Mongolian forces in this space right here, Karelian. As soon as the Japanese do this, give the USSR control of Mongolia. These sides may capture Karelian and Western Manchuria from each other. Remember, control is different than alignment. So if the Japanese decide to take Karelian, then the Soviets will control these two spaces, but that doesn't mean that they've aligned them. They won't be Soviet spaces, they'll just be Soviet controlled spaces. The Soviets would still have to go in and conquer them if they wanted them. And that goes for this space over here too. So next page. Okay, so we're talking about the units here. We have in here, where is he? This guy here. That's the Imperial Guard, the Manchukuo Imperial Guard. Now he's an elite unit. Then there's other elite infantry units on the board, like in Finland, and like some of the elite Marines would have the same attack and defense value. So the attack and defense value of an elite infantry unit is 3 for attack and 5 for defense, and a movement of 1. So it bumps up +1 on the attack and defense, but not on the movement. There's no ability to purchase this. Like this guy that you get right here, the Imperial Guard, he's the only one you're going to get in the game. Once he dies, he's gone. You don't replace him. And I did another video earlier today on river monitors, and in this one you're going to see here there's river patrol boats on here. There's one for Manchukuo and there's one for the Soviets, and they're both in the same river here, but because one side controls one and one side controls the other, then you don't destroy them, right? If the Soviets control both sides of the river, then the Manchukuo patrol boat would be destroyed, and the same it goes if it was the other way around, and the Soviet one would be destroyed. So if you haven't seen that video, I'll just tell you what a patrol boat is. So a river patrol boat allows a nation to treat a river as if it were a railroad for purposes of tracing supply paths and for strategic rail movement. It may move only along a river. A river patrol boat is produced at a factory and can be placed in any zone within a supply path of that factory. For combat, a river patrol boat has no combat value. It cannot combat, move, attack, defend, or be taken as a casualty. Except there is a case, and that is that river boats can fight each other. They can't fight the land units or any air units for that matter, but they can fight each other, and when they do that, they have an attack and a defense value of 1. and they have a movement of 1. And they cost 1. Like if you want to purchase one and put it at a factory, it will cost you 1. But when they only move along the river, right? And like I said earlier, a river patrol boat is immediately eliminated if it is alone in a zone with enemy land units, or if it is the only viable target of an air attack. 2 river patrol boats in the same river can attack each other with an attack defense value of 5. So I've already stated about that. And then the river boats on a river that is the border between 2 nations, and that's what they are right here. Act as if they are in the zone of their nation and are never eliminated unless an enemy boat owns both sides of the border. A river boat pairs 1-to-1 with attacking land units to negate the -1 attack penalty. So normally when you're attacking across a river, let's say these guys want to attack these guys. Because they're land units, they have a -1. So if this guy attacks at a 2, well, now he attacks at a 1. And militia don't attack. But anyway, if he wanted to attack across the river here, he would roll at 1. But because there's a river monitor there, he boosts him +1. He doesn't boost him +1. What he does is he negates that -1. So he's going to attack at 2 now because they have the river patrol boat. And the same going the other way, because the Soviets have a river patrol boat. If he wanted to attack this space here, rather than being taken down from a 2 to a 1, he would still attack at 2. And you can choose any unit that you want. Like if you had a tank in there, you could say, okay, there's no -1 on the tank, but it's only 1-to-1. You can't, like if there was 10 infantry here, you don't say 10 of them get to go across and no penalty. Only 1 unit can be paired with a river patrol boat. Unless you have more river patrol boats, obviously, right? But that's what these things do for you, is they give you another route for a supply path instead of just railroads, and they negate that -1. And so that, and like they're not that great, and that's why they only cost 1, right? So that's a river patrol boat. Now we have the armored car, and I showed you that one. It doesn't start in this setup here, but here's that armored car here. They attack at 3 and they defend at 2 and they move 2, and they cost 3. Now I'm thinking of changing that because that's the same stats as a cavalry piece, right? And so, like why buy one over the other, like why not just buy all armored cars or all cavalry, right? Like they're the same thing. So what I'm thinking of doing is like I looked this up online and everything, and I kind of researched it a bit. And an armored car, what they were scout vehicles. So they would scout out where the enemy positions were, and then they would let their forces know where they were. So what I would like to do is pair these 1-to-1 with an artillery unit, and then that artillery unit in the first round of combat would be +1, because after that first round of combat, then the enemy could move, right? And you assume that the armored car would have got the hell out of Dodge before that happens. And then there's the Kwangtung Army over here. So this is Kwangtung Army, this guy here, and you can build up to 4 of those in Manchukuo. You don't need a factory to build them, and they're like your colonial infantry for the British in that you don't need a factory to build them. So you can build a total of 4 of them, and they're marked with that marker, and they attack at 3 and they defend at 4. They move 1 and they cost 4. So they're a kicked up version of an infantry as well, because an infantry is normally 2 and 4. These are 3 and 4. So they're better attackers, and they're just normal defense for an infantry unit. So that's a little bit better, but it does cost you 1 IPP more though than a regular infantry unit. So moving on there, the resistance. General resistance. So the Japanese have at least 1 infantry class, it must have at least 1 infantry class unit in each of the Manchukuo land zones during their place units and collect income phase, or they may not collect the income from that land zone. This does not affect bonus income from those regions. So like there's 4 spaces in here, right? You're going to need an infantry class unit in each of these 4 spaces in order to collect the income from that. Like if this guy's gone from here and it's the collect unit space, then you don't collect that 1 IPP because you don't have an infantry class unit in there. So you got to make sure that you have an infantry in these spaces if you want to collect the income from that space. But again, that doesn't cancel any bonuses that you might get. So the Soviets, and that would be these guys here, like we're talking the pro CCP, they're calling it the Soviet resistance. During the place units and collect income phase, the CCP may place a regular militia unit it has purchased in any Manchukuo land zone. If it does, that unit is immediately the attacker and fights all units are in that zone as if it were an attacking unit in regular combat. If the CCP militia wins or there are no units to fight, place a CCP marker in that zone. So let me just show you. I'll just grab one. So we have a CCP militia here, and you could place a regular militia anywhere in Manchukuo, but you're going to have to fight the guy that's there, right? So you could place him here, and the militia do have an attack value. I think it's only 1, but like this guy could fight this guy. And it's as soon as you put him in there, he's going to have to fight though. You can't just leave him in there and then they have to fight him. As soon as you put him in, then he's got to fight. But if there's a territory where there's nobody in there, then you go ahead and put that in there, and then you take that off and you put your little pie on there. So that's a free territory. So that's another reason you're going to want to make sure that you've got somebody on each of those places every single time. Otherwise, the communist Chinese can take it over from you. So that's the Soviet resistance. Next page. Okay, I did that page. I was going to tell you all about the Imperial Guard. Okay, now the Civil War, you remember there's a civil war going on down in China down here, right? Between the Communist Chinese and the Nationalist Chinese. And upon resolution of that war, the winner may do any or all of the following. So you actually have to fight that civil war though. Like you can't just, Japan attacks that and kills these guys first. Now the nationalists are the only one left. Like you have to fight that civil war if you want any of this stuff to happen, and one side has to win that civil war, whether it's the communists or whether it's the nationalists. So if that happens, you can construct a major factory in any former Manchukuo land zone in their possession and use it as if it were Chinese home country. So any territory in here, you can construct a major factory. Let's say the KMT wins, so you put a major factory for the KMT in there. You can demand that any member of their alliance that occupies a Manchukuo land zone place a Chinese KMT or CCP roundel there and return it to Chinese possession. So you would take these over as the Chinese if you want. And all you have to do is say, yeah, get your shit out of there. That's mine now. Build militia and Chinese units in a former Manchukuo land zone in their possession as if it were Chinese home country. So this basically what they're saying is this will become Chinese. All you have to do is say, I want that, and you just take it. And it becomes part of China and becomes part of the Chinese home country, not some satellite place. And also you can receive Lend-Lease in Manchukuo as if it was the Chinese home country. So like if the communists want it, then you could just get your Lend-Lease from Russia going right through there. You don't have to worry about going around or going over the ocean or anything like that. This is yours, and you can receive Lend-Lease through there. And the last part is just the setup here, and I'll show you here. They give you the setup at the end here, and all this stuff. So let me just tell you what's different in here, rather than going through everything. So the only difference in the Russian setup is that they have a light tank here. Like they didn't tell you where to put all these things. I put all the units around here that were around Manchukuo. But in Cheetah, that's the only place that they have a different setup. So it's the light tank here is different, and the river patrol boat is different. That's the only thing that's different for the Russians. As far as J-Hall, J-Hall, that is I think the only difference is normally there's 2 infantry in here with that militia. If this was Japanese, like if you weren't using this scheme, then you would get 2 more infantry there than normal. In Northern, this is exactly the same, except that you add the river patrol boat. So other than that, this space would be the same. In Eastern Manchuria, that would be this one right here. Normally there's 2 infantry, a militia, and a cavalry. In this one there's an Imperial Guard, infantry, a militia, and a cavalry. So you're actually doing a little bit better there because you have that Imperial Guard instead of 2 infantry. And then Western Manchuria over here. Where are we here? Just trying to find it on the Japanese thing here. Actually, I don't think they give you anything in Western Manchuria as far as the Japanese setup goes. So all this stuff in here is new. You get one of these Kwangtung Army. You get cavalry, and you get an extra factory in here. This you don't get anything in the normal Japanese setup. So that is Manchukuo. So I'd be interested to see how this works out. I think it's a good set to get for sure because you do get a lot of extra units with it. You don't get any of the Russian units except for that river patrol boat, but you get a lot of markers with it. And you know, like the infantry pieces is not that great because Japanese infantry pieces are easy to find, but you get those CCP markers. If you're just using these for your factories, then you get a couple of free ones of those. And you get a couple of militia markers. Not enough though. Like here, you can see there's 1, 2, 3 militia in here. So you still have to have at least 1 militia marker of your own in there. But it does give you 2 of them, and gives you a couple artillery, and gives you this, and it gives you that armored car. It gives you 3 of the like 1 of these and 2 of these cavalry. But also, I've heard that it's a pretty good set to play with. Like it makes the battle over here more interesting. Normally, what happens is it's just a border clash here, and Japan just rushes towards China to try to beat the crap out of the Chinese, right? So this is going to add another element to this part of the board over here. And really, there's nothing that happens over here other than Japan assaulting China. That's the only thing that really happens until the Americans get in, which can be very late in the game by the time they get across here. So there's nothing happening around Japan. So this would add an extra element to the game. And I've read online and had a guy contact me and say, you know, because I do these videos, he said, you should get the Manchukuo one. It's really good. So I'm looking forward to playing this someday. I think that I'll try to put it into my next game, and I don't know when that's going to be, but I'm going to put it into my next game and check it out because I hear good things about it. So that's Manchukuo, Puppets of the Empire. Take care, everyone. General Hand Grenade out.